What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Executive View, the view from the top of the press box. My name is Aaron Sirius Simmons. I'm your host this evening. And before we get started, I want to give my big shout out to God, man. God is everything. And it's a pleasure to be able to do this with everybody. But you guys know I don't do this by myself, man. I got a room full of gentlemen who want to talk and get their information out. Starting with my co-host, man, Barry the Villain Jordan. What's going on, my guy? How we doing this evening, sir?
Villain, I'm glad to be here. Glad to see everybody here. I'm just before the show starts, I am formally filing a protest against this show, against any Rockets fans that want to come for any kind of smoke. I am formally filing my protest along with the New York Knicks. But glad to be here.
That was crazy to lose that game like that.
That's crazy. That's crazy. You know what,
Mike? I was so tight, Mike. You have no idea. I was tight.
He can file all his paperwork, but that still goes down to the dub. Jalen Brunson should have known better.
What did I text you last night, Sirius? What did I text you? I was like,
I forgot.
This is BS. Good night. I couldn't even. I was like, good night. That's it.
We're getting it out of here in a minute, man. Next up, man, I got my man Chandler in the building. What's going on, CH? How we doing this evening, sir?
I'm just an old guy who woke up with my flip phone.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Not the flip phone.
That's his new phone.
That's his
new phone.
This is new.
My man got his razor. He got his razor, man. That's funny.
Yeah, he replaced the bar. He replaced the bar phone with the flip. Moving up in the world.
What you guys don't realize is he has a flip phone and a pager. That's what Chandler got.
Wow.
Like Tupac said back in the day, 1-800 Page when you want to see me.
Anyways, the guy you're hearing right now is Mr. Harvey. What's going on, Mr. Harvey? How we doing this evening, sir?
Hey, man. We're doing well. Once I realized that not to use the app for accessibility and just go through the website, I'm good now. So here on time, ready to cook, man. Excited about all the things going on tonight. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to spend some time with you, gentlemen.
Yes, sir. Brian, breaking news. Hughes is in the building after his Super Bowl loss. We'll talk to him about that here in a little bit. But Brian, what's going on, my guy?
Man, just feeling blessed to be here on the Executive View. I see an oldie but goodie that we're about to get to. Man, if I would have known Saved by the Bell was going to be in the building.
Yes, sir.
Take it away, brother.
That guy is the one and only Black Zach Morris, man, from back in the day, man. Good to see this man back in the building. What's going on, my guy? How we doing?
I mean, good to be seen. And speaking of seen, it's like my face ID been messing up on my phone. So either I've gotten better looking or I've gotten uglier. I don't know which one it is.
It definitely ain't better looking, brother. It's definitely not better looking.
The face was doing all right until he started moving up and showing the sweatshirt. Then I was like, all right, listen, we got a problem.
Talk to him. Yeah. Show it to him one time.
What's on the sweatshirt?
Well, my sweatshirt, because due to the goings on last night with the Knicks and the Rockets, I'm a Rockets fan. I decided I would just do a little intro, for all my Knicks fans out there. 3, 2, 1.
Oh yes, yes, sir.
I feel like we need some music.
Anyways, gentlemen, man, let's get to work, man. We are now at the halfway point of the NBA season. The All-Star festivities are this weekend, and I wanted to stop and give you guys an opportunity to kind of talk about some surprises or what you saw in the first half of the season that kind of, has you scratching your head and also kind of has you pleasantly surprised. I'll start with my man Black Zach first, man. Zach, talk to me, man. What has you scratching your head during the first half of the NBA season?
The Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors have just had me scratching my head from the early season stuff with Draymond to just like Clay. Just what made Clay special besides his shooting was his defense out on the perimeter. He don't got it anymore out there. He just doesn't. It's sad to see, but he doesn't. Just the stuff with Steve Kerr, and it seems like he's kind of like losing control of the ship. It's for me, a Rocket fan. I know, like the trauma that this team has put me through. I would love to say that I am beat up about the state of the Golden State Warriors, but I'm not. And it's like, Steph Curry can drop 60 points in a loss. Draymond had to go to therapy to learn how to be an adult and how to control his emotions. And these are things that when the Warriors were winning, they swept under the rug. Now, something is rotting in the house of Denmark, and it's beautiful to see for me as a fan of a Western Conference team. Rome wasn't built in a day, and it looks like it's burning fast out in San Francisco. So it's just, I don't know. That's one of my biggest surprises. And just real quick to throw it in, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Those young boys are ready. They ready to go. They had the filling out process last year, and I feel like Anthony Edwards has taken that leap that all teams want their young star to take. He has gone from this boy good to do you see this boy? And it's just he is must see TV. Like the Timberwolves, like people forget, Rudy Gobert is probably going to be a future Hall of Famer due to the multiple defensive players of the years. And he is a legit great defender. He's a little bit goofy, whatever like that, but on the basketball court, especially on the defensive end, he's serious business. So pardon the pun, not intended. But those are my two things that I'm most excited for. It's like the Eastern Conference. I'll be honest with you. I don't really watch a lot of Eastern Conference basketball because I'm a fan of the Western Conference. It's like I was forced against my will to watch the Eastern Conference basketball last night. So be that as it may, Timberwolves and Warriors, my two biggest surprises, at least on the Western Conference side. And, the Eastern Conference side, I will say, and I'm going to be done, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think whatever was going on in the beginning of the season, they kind of righted, and we'll see. I'm very interested to see what the Cavaliers do in the second half.
Yeah, I feel you, man. A lot of good points. I'm going to double click on that in a little bit, but Chandler, I'll come to you next, sir. The NBA All-Star break is here. Time to kind of kick back and reflect on the first half of the season. What stood out to you, sir, as a fan kicking back watching these games?
I like what Zach said about Golden State. Now, I hate the fact that they're using therapy as a punchline there because there's nothing wrong with somebody going to therapy. But don't tell me 16 games was enough. Miss me with that nonsense. But yeah, Steve Kerr finally has to coach. And suddenly we find that Steve Kerr can't really coach when he actually has to. And Klay Thompson, if they would use him, listen, Klay Thompson can still shoot. Okay? No, he can't defend anymore. But if you used him the way you should be using him, which is, listen, Klay, you just a shooter now, so we're going to bring you up the bench. You're just going to be instant offense for us. You're going to stand in that corner. We're going to hit you off all these screens, and you just keep banging them shots. That would be great. But you're still trying to get him to be who he was, and that's not who he was. So that's on the coach. Why hasn't Monty Williams been fired yet? Why hasn't Monty Williams been fired yet? Okay? One,
he's a nice man.
Too much for that team to be that bad, too. Yeah. The ownership had to come to you and say, yo, dude, you need to play Jaden Ivey. Because, see, Monty Williams has this thing where he catches attitudes and holds grudges. You have a young team. You don't get to hold grudges, dude, when you're supposed to be the adult. Okay? The fact that ownership had to make you play Jaden Ivey, who is one of the best players on your team, but you refuse to play him because you got some sort of little personal vendetta, much as you did in Phoenix, much as you did in your last stop as a coach. Okay, this dude should never have been hired, and I said that when he was hired. Barry, you know that. Monty Williams should be fired into the sun. Okay, not just fired into the sun. But I love what Oklahoma City is doing. Yep. We said this a couple of years ago. When them boys really grow up and get into their own, I like the fact Minnesota, the fact that they finally realized Karl Anthony Towns is a great second guy. He ain't the main guy. He's a great second guy. And Karl Anthony Towns has accepted it. Look what's going on in Minnesota. Look what's going on. There are a lot of these young teams that finally started to realize their talent. Kevin Porter Jr., wherever you are, bro, stay on your meds and you can get back in this league. But I love what the Rockets done. We were talking about the Rockets a couple of seasons ago, like, dude, there's too much talent. They should be better. The Pistons, tell me, talent-wise, there ain't a whole lot of difference between the Pistons and the Rockets. The difference is the coaching. The difference is the coaching. So that's what it is for me. Yeah, I'm a Knicks fan of the Knicks. Yeah. Tom Thibodeau's running him into the ground like he always does. Everybody hurt. We knew this was going to happen. All right, but, Timberwolves, Rockets, Pistons. For me, when I see teams with a lot of talent, Oklahoma City, and you're not maximizing it, I got a problem with that.
I can respect it. Mr. Harvey, I'll come to you next, sir. The NBA, first half of the season is just about done. The festivities kick off this weekend. Looking back, what kind of stood out to you, either positively or negatively, as the first half comes to a close?
Well, so I'll be brief, but from what it's really only a couple of teams that I think have a legit shot to come out of the East. I could be wrong at the end of the day, but I think it's just really, 2 or 3 teams. And because playoff Jimmy Butler is different, you could throw Miami into that just because they've defied that before. So that's kind of what I expect out of the East. Out of the West, breaking news, I had a lot to say about the Lakers while I was fighting the technical difficulties last week. And some of what he said, I very much agree with. This Lakers team made some trades. Let's keep in mind, they made some trades last year around the deadline. Once they traded Westbrook and did some other things, they actually had a little bit better complete roster. They played pretty well. They were kind of punching a little bit above their weight class in the play. The matchups fell right for them in the playoffs, though. They got the Golden State team. They got Memphis. So the matchups kind of fell right for them in the playoffs to make the conference finals. So that's why they pretty much brought everybody back. I think that what we're finding out is maybe you're not quite as good. To quote Denny Green, maybe you're not who we thought we were, who we thought they were. But at the end of the day, I look and some of it rests with Darvin Ham. Some of it rests with the effort is not where I feel like it needs to be consistently night in and night out. When they really turn it on, they play pretty well, but the effort's not there. And there are times that there's a lot of what we saw when number 8, number 24 was in LA. We're seeing a lot of kind of standing around watching at times. Let's see what LeBron's going to do. And so I'm not really seeing the team basketball I hope for. That being said, there is still some time. The West is different than the East, though, and that there are multiple teams that can come out. And these guys really hit. These guys hit on the 2 things in the West that really jump out to me. We've talked about before. We've seen this in multiple sports where you bring in a free agent, you expect a lot, and then sometimes you don't really see that until the second year. And I think that's what we're seeing in Minnesota, right? They kind of figured some things out. Anthony Edwards had some experience on the international stage, kind of, was a sort of, lead dog for Team USA trying to win a World Cup. They came up a little short, but Anthony Edwards took a big step forward in his development, and they've kind of really started to figure it out with Rudy. And I mean, this team, the Clippers have been one of the hottest teams in the NBA over the last couple months. And that Minnesota team went into LA last night and just absolutely abused them. Right. Like it was not pretty for a while. And this is this isn't fool's gold. This is a good basketball team. They did it too. And then, Chandler just hit on it, man, the Thunder. And this team has like 1,300 draft picks in the next 2 seasons or something. So they've got a ton of capital. They can do a lot of things. But this Thunder team, I knew they would be better. I did not necessarily expect them to be sitting atop or, within a couple places of the top of the Western Conference at this point right now. This team has definitely taken a big step forward. Lots of young talent on this team. This team is going to be, a serious problem. So I'm impressed with what I've been seeing from the Oklahoma City Thunder. I feel like the Rockets have taken a step forward this year as well. And
we can't close. We can't close right now.
But to Chandler, but you're still better than you were a year ago, right? Like,
true.
And to Chandler's point, like, Monty Williams did the same thing, like he said with DeAndre Ayton. You're doing it again. Like, come on, yo, grow up. Like you're supposed to be the adult. You're supposed to be the leader here. And so, this team was already bad with Dwayne Casey, and they're worse with Monty Williams. And they got a little bit more talent on the roster. So
let me ask you guys this question just to kind of flip it, because we keep talking about Monty Williams. Do we give Chauncey Billups the same type of fire that we're giving Monty Williams? for what's going
Next
on in
season,
Portland?
yes. Next
Well,
season, yes.
yeah, isn't he a former coach of the year though, or coach of the year
Chauncey?
candidate? Kansas. He was
Chauncey?
a former. No. Monty Williams was a former
Monty
coach
Williams,
of the year candidate.
Yep.
I mean, he won coach of the year, but right now, what I'm hearing, and again, Villain, I'll come to you next. What I'm hearing is, Monty Williams needs to be fired into the sun. Monty Williams needs to be fired. And again, I'm all with that. I'm with it.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm seeing out of Portland right now, I'm not getting the same type of let's fire Chauncey into the sun type of vibe.
But I don't think
there's much talent on that roster, and I just don't.
There is some talent. In Portland. I don't know.
Villain, talk to me, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think Portland has talent. I mean, you got Anthony, right? And they got some guys. They have some horses. I don't think you expected much from them, though. Just like you don't think you expected much from Detroit. But Detroit had first round. They had top 3 picks. You know what I mean? That you should be able to start to win with. So I think that's where the disappointment comes into play. For me, the first half is all about the youth movement really stepping forward and getting to the top, like you guys have alluded to with Minnesota. Oklahoma City, we thought was a year away from being really, really good. Like I thought that they would get out of the play-in and be like a 5-6 seed. They're the number 2 seed, and they're one of the best teams in the league. Like no question about it. You know what I mean? So I like that. I know this team's kind of not fallen, but kind of stepped back a little bit lately. But you got to be impressed what's going on in Orlando, right? Like with Pachero and Wagner. Like I really like what they're doing out there. They got the youth, but they got Mosley is really coaching that team pretty well. I like what I see out of that. So it's a lot of youth, right? I think the Pelicans have finally started to kind of assert themselves a little bit. I think that you still got question marks, but again, a new team, fresh face. The Kings are the Kings. Like you thought last year was a joke. Nah, this team can play. This team can score on anybody. So from that perspective, I like that. I like what I'm seeing. I think one of the more surprising things to me this year has been how average the Bucks have been because they don't play defense. And
then you go get a coach like Doc Rivers who doesn't really preach defense.
And he kind of does, but doesn't. And it's like really, it's who you're preaching to. I mean, I could sit here at the head of the congregation and tell you the Lord died for your sins, but if I got a crowd full of people that ain't listening or on their phones, it ain't gonna make much of a difference. So you got guys on that team that don't play defense. You had to get Pat Bev to get in there, and as soon as he got there, he got in people's behinds, trying to tell listen, you need to do this, this, and this, because the guys that are there aren't really playing. They're not apt to play defense. So the Bucks, to me, they're not a finals team. They are by default because of the 2 horses they have, the closers. But I don't know. I don't like what I see from them. And I gotta give as much as I killed this guy and I get on him. I gotta give James Harden and I have to give Russell Westbrook their flowers. I gotta give them props. I mean, especially Westbrook, because he should be out of the league. The way his trajectory was going the last couple of years, he's played himself into a starting role, not a starter, but a supporting role, and he's embraced it and he's excelled at it. He coming off the bench really ignited that second unit. So I love what I see out of him. And the Clippers in general, like that team was left for dead soon after that Harden trade. Harden's kind of fit in; they figured it out. But really, you got to give props to Tyronn Lue, one of the best coaches in the league. Like to take that mess. Not really have a lot of time to play with. You didn't have an offseason, you didn't have a training camp, but now you're really 1.5 games out of first place. I got to give them props. They're probably, to me, even though I think Minnesota and Oklahoma City might be slightly better, they're the team to me. They're the team to beat out West for me because of the veteran leadership and how fast they put it together. They're the team I expect to come out of the West.
Having Zion and BI together in New Orleans, because that's the one thing we didn't know if we would ever see happen, but they've been healthier this year. They've already played more games together this season than they've played together in their entire career. So that
helps. That makes a difference, man.
That's made a huge, huge, huge difference for them for sure.
Yeah.
So for me, gentlemen, and breaking news, I'll come to you next. But for me, I think the biggest question mark that I see going into from the first half of the season. Honestly, for me, is the Phoenix Suns. And they started out really rocky. They was below 500 for a period of time. I wanted to say the Warriors, but my man, Steve took that. So I'm pivoting to the Suns because they started out really bad. Bradley Beal was playing sporadically of that. KD wasn't doing this thing, and it was a whole lot of noise going on. This team has found a way to flip it on its ear and turn it around, and they're now in the upper echelons of the Western Conference trying to compete for that number one spot. And for me, honestly, it looks like the Denver Nuggets are just sleepwalking. They're just bored. That, to me, is what it looks like. Like, they understand that, come, end of March, April, they're going to flip a switch. And, if health is on their side, knock on wood, they're going to be primed to make it to the run, because I don't see anybody in the Western Conference beating them 4 times. Jamal Murray is that dude. Joker is that dude. And it's funny that Steve said, I remember having many conversations with he and his lady on social network on Facebook about Joker. I couldn't stand the dude. Couldn't stand him. You know what I'm saying? And, quickly I got put in my place, shout out to Savarsha, wherever she's at. But honestly, at the end of the day, that dude is sick. And it doesn't look like he's even trying. So I think they're going to flip a switch. Negatively, man, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I live out here in the Metro. And this Wizards team is just, I've seen high school ball players play better than this Washington Wizards team. The biggest fall from grace and a Jordan Poole, where he was once a secondary splash brother, if you will, an honorary splash brother doing his thing in Golden State. Now he's out here, and I saw a stat line the other day where this brother didn't even score no points.
Told y'all, system guy.
So
he was a splash nephew.
Splash nephew. I mean, the thing, here's the thing. Like, I'm gonna give the man his flowers, because I mean, when he was out there playing with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, I mean, you got to make the shots. You got to make the shots, and you got to be in the right space to do what you got to do. And again, it's easy when you got Steph doing what he does, and Klay doing what he does. So he made the shots. So, but to come to Washington and try to be the guy with he and Kyle Kuzma and the rest of these misfits that they have out here is shocking to me. With that being said, Brian, I'll throw it to you to close the basketball conversation down, sir. We got the first half coming to a close, man. What say you, my guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys hit on most of the stuff. I'm gonna start right where you just left off and say that, I think oftentimes we as fans take for granted that these guys are professionals. Every single one of these guys was the best player on their high school team, was the best player for the most part on their college team, was the best player all the way up. If you can't hit an open shot, then you don't deserve to get paid to play. And when you have guys like Klay Thompson and Steph Curry on the court creating space, yeah, you know what? You're going to pick your poison. I'm going to let Poole shoot the three. I'm not going to let Steph Curry, because he's already proven with my hand in his face, he'll do it all night long. Getting back to the standings, though, I think you guys did a great job. So one thing that I personally thought was kind of ironic is, as you guys know, I do not watch basketball on a daily basis like you guys do, but I do. I'll read the weekly recaps. I read, sports articles, things like that, because I'm kind of boycotting my team right now. So I know Harvey's going to probably say something, but that's okay. But I will tell you this. So I was like, man, the Denver Nuggets are in 4th place. The Sacramento Kings are in 7th. Both these teams were pretty good last year. Like, man, these guys are really falling off. And I only bring this stuff up to say, which is really kind of alluding more to your guys' point, but kind of the youth movement. If you look at the win percentage on the Denver Nuggets and the Sacramento Kings, and even even some of these other teams, they're right in line with where they were last year. They're right in line. The problem is the West as a whole has gotten so much better with Oklahoma City. even the Clippers, which, obviously really no one talked about. Minnesota has taken a step forward. The Pelicans have taken a step forward. Like, all these teams have gotten better. And so when you look at a team like a la Denver, when you look at a team a la Sacramento, when you look at a team like the Mavericks or the Lakers, if you look at their win percentage, it's not like they're a whole lot better or worse. The problem is they have stayed stagnant, and their win percentage is within 10 of what it was. But it's probably something that would have given you a 1 or 2 seed last year in the West is probably going to be more like a 6 or 7 seed this year. So it will be interesting to see how things play out. I just wanted to use my 3 minutes of listen. You guys know I'm a Lakers fan, and I know this is blasphemy, but I do got to put this out there. Boston is 25-3 at home.
Yeah,
25-3. That needs to be that. Listen, in a league where if you go up and down the away, go from the best team in the West, a team like Minnesota that's 18-11, or Oklahoma who's 15-11, nobody can win on the road. So to have that kind of home dominance, that's going to be huge come playoff time.
Definitely. It's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing shakes out. I hope you guys enjoy the festivities this weekend, man. I'm curious to see, how the dunk contest comes out and, how everything goes. But the time has come for us to pivot to the football game, the Super Bowl that took place, where the San Francisco 49ers, again, dropped a close one to the Kansas City Chiefs on Super Sunday. I got a 49er fan in the building, so I'm going to let him bat lead off here. Brian, talk to me, man. If you want to break it down from a San Francisco perspective or what you saw from both sides, let me know how you want to carry it, man. I'm going to give you the opportunity to say what you got to say.
Well, it's funny because the coaches have the access to the same information that we do, right?
Mm.
They can look up the same info. What did I tell you guys would be key in that game for San Francisco? 21 personnel, right? Remember I said when they're in 21 personnel with 2 backs and 1 tight end, that's going to be a formation that's going to give Kansas City problems. What do you think their yards per rush was out of that formation? If you had to guess, 6.8 yards per carry.
Wow.
Out of all other formations, they average less than 4 yards per carry. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'm old school. Maybe I'm if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of guy. But everybody who watched that game, especially the opening drive, yeah, it sucks that Christian McCaffrey fumbled the ball, but they were literally dominating the line of scrimmage on both sides. They were running it right down their throat. They were sucking the life right out of Kansas City. I think, we'll hear what everybody else has to say, but at least in my opinion, for 3.5 quarters, they were the better team. They were the better team on the field. And basically, I'm going to go ahead and say it. And you know what? I'm going to steal a little bit of Chandler's thunder here. Due to some poor coaching decisions, like coming out in the third quarter and running in the first 10 plays that we ran coming out of the third quarter, they ran 9 pass plays in 1 run, even though we had a 10-3 lead. Doesn't make any sense. Here's another one that doesn't make any sense. The player said, we didn't know any better. Maybe they need to be coached up. You win the coin toss in overtime. You know you're both parties are going to get the ball. Why the hell would you choose to get the ball first? Wouldn't you rather know what exactly it's going to take to win the game? Wouldn't you rather be on? Wouldn't you rather wait? You're on the 4-yard line and kick a field goal on 4th and 2. Wouldn't you rather know, hey, you know what? We're going to actually need to go for that. So there was a few head scratchers. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, man, you know what? The muff punt, was a game changer, or, oh, the fumble was a game changer. Because, listen, KC had a couple turnovers too. The bottom line is they capitalized on their turnovers. The Niners did not capitalize on their turnovers. 0 points off turnovers for the Niners, 10 points for Kansas City off turnovers. And that literally was the difference in the game. They let Kansas City get momentum. And as you guys know, Patrick Mahomes, you give him any small opening, you could almost see the transformation of when he said, oh, you know what? I think we can win this game. We've let them linger and hang around long enough. and they ended up winning that game exactly like you thought they would. But just in support, because at least out here in California, people are killing Brock Purdy. Like, oh, he didn't do very much. He didn't do enough. He's not good enough. Listen, number one, first Super Bowl. Number two, I think he played more than good enough to win the game. I think the offensive line was a problem. The kid was scrambling for his life the entire game. And I think number two, I think it was a horrible game plan. They targeted Deebo Samuel 10 times when Trent McDuffie was on him, who's their all-pro corner. You're telling me you can't figure out how to get the ball to George Kittle or continue to get the ball to Kyle Juszczyk, your all-pro fullback, or figure out how to get the ball to Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield? Like, you're supposed to be a schematic genius, Kyle. Figure out how to use these weapons and create a mismatch. They should have stuck with the 21 personnel, and they should have to continue to run the ball. This happens, unfortunately, far too often. I still believe in Kyle. I still believe in the offense. But I will tell you, it is concerning that even when we have a lead, he loves to throw the ball. Even if we're averaging 6 yards a carry on the ground, he loves to throw the ball. And I would have liked to have seen other running backs get the ball more often to keep Christian fresh in the second half and to keep those and the defensive line rotation a little bit better to keep the defensive linemen fresh. Because it looked like, at least to me, and you guys can chime in, but it looked like to me, fourth quarter overtime, they weren't getting the pressure they were in the first half. It looked like they were getting a little gassed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Villain, talk to me, man. This Super Bowl did not go as you predicted. You thought that the 49ers would emerge victorious along with Brian, obviously. How do you feel, man? Tell me what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, Brian is right. And the thing is, I think, first, you got to give Kansas City their props, right? They won the game. They're 3-time champions, 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, give them their props. But I think the Niners lost this game more than the Chiefs won it. I mean, you can't count out Patrick Mahomes. I am tired of picking against that guy. I pretty much will not do it. I'd rather be wrong than right and on this guy, because every time I pick against him, he just figures out a way. And the fact that the Chiefs were able to keep the game close and put it in their quarterback's hands is exactly probably what they've done all playoffs and what they've done, for most of the season, because this Chiefs team was dead. And I don't know, we talked about it, but after that embarrassing loss to the Raiders, I think around Christmas, we thought this team was
Christmas.
Yeah, we thought they were done. We thought
they lost to the Broncos too, right?
They lost some bad games down the stretch. They lost a lot of bad games, and then now they're holding up their third trophy. So you got to give them credit. You got to give Mahomes credit, Andy Reid and company. That Spagnuolo is one of the best defensive coordinators I've ever seen. Right up there with Belichick and some other guys. But I mean, like, this guy, he's got the most Super Bowls for a defensive coordinator. That's not by accident. The guy's a hell of a coach, right? But you know what? When you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs and that defense is top 3 in the league, and you got Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, you can't lose on special teams. And that's what happened. That's one thing that cost the Niners the game. That block kick, which was a bad kick by Moody, the only bad kick he's had all year, Brian, right? That was a low kick and it got blocked, and then you had the muff punt, right? You can't lose the special teams against this team, because Patrick Mahomes threw a pick in the third quarter, and I said to my daughter, who was crying because she thought her boyfriend Patrick Mahomes is going to lose. I said, it's over. That's it. And she was upset. She was crying. But I thought it was over because they had the momentum, and then they gave it right back. So you can't lose on special teams. They stopped running the football, to Brian's point. People wanted to say that Brock Purdy was the best player on the team for the 49ers. No, he wasn't. Christian McCaffrey was. Christian McCaffrey had almost 200 yards of total offense. The guy was unbelievable he was getting tired. Maybe you could have sprinkled in Elijah Mitchell a little bit more in there, but the running game was working. The offensive line of the San Francisco 49ers failed. That was the worst game I saw them play all season. Trent Williams is one of the best tackles in the league. He had consecutive holding penalties.
Consecutive, Joe?
consecutive plays, like, and he was just awful. That 3rd and 4 play, when you look at the replay of that, that's a miscommunication between the offensive line. You had 2 guys, Chandler Jones and another guy, coming up the middle in Brock Purdy's face. If one of those guys was supposed to pull, they all went down. They like triple teamed the middle guy. It was ridiculous. If one of those guys get blocked and give Purdy just a second of time, not only was the flat open, the out route to Jennings, you had Ayuk over the middle because the cornerback slipped. He fell down.
Yeah.
So that was a total mistake. The offensive, I know everybody wants to kill Shanahan, and rightfully so, not knowing the rules of the overtime, not deferring. Even though your defense was tired, they were just on the field. And I said it to another person too. I don't want to go too long. I want to give everybody time to go. But the only reason the Chiefs didn't win that game in regulation is because they ran out of time, because Patrick Mahomes inexplicably ran the ball up the middle and they had they wasted time. That was the only reason that they didn't win that game. So that defense was tired, but even still, you get the ball, you dictate, all right, the Chiefs got the ball, they scored, now I'm in control of the game. Like that it's just a 101. But the offensive line played poorly. The special teams did not come up to play, and they were dominating the line of scrimmage for the whole game, almost the whole game. And then they stopped getting pressure on Mahomes. They stopped winning on the offensive line and on the defensive line, and that turned the tide of the game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I respect it. I mean, I'm gonna say my opinion for last. Black Zach, man, talk to me, man. You said that you were done betting against Patrick Mahomes and you were picking the Chiefs, and you was correct. Actually, you had the score the closest in your video, man. Talk to me. Tell me how you felt.
Yeah, I mean, I picked the final score of 26-20, and it was 25-22. So I was pretty close to cashing in that exact score ticket. But like for me, like I talked about it in my preview, the Chiefs defense. Once again, in a season where things didn't go right with the offense, the defense was solid all year, and they were solid once again in the Super Bowl. Chris Jones, I mean, get that man his money. Stop playing with him. Give that man his money. He was just a beast. It was just like when things seemed to be going off the rails. Travis Kelce's all in Andy Reid's face, and Mahomes is looking frustrated. Chris Jones got his squad together. He said, "All right, y'all. Let's cut this out," and much to their credit, they really came together from that point on. Miscues by the 49ers and stuff like that. And once again, the ghost of Super Bowl pass come to, Hunt Shanahan once again. It's just, we talked about, Sirius mentioned like this show's going to be insane tonight. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Here we go again. You're doing the same type of things and expecting a different result. And it's like, I mean, I understand it. It seems like in the second half, I saw more Tamu ads than Christian McCaffrey carries, and something is wrong with that. That's not something that's it's just like, okay, we're doing a good job running the Christian McCaffrey play. This play is working. It's working at a 6.8 yard clip. And let's stop doing that. Let's stop doing the thing that has us controlling this game. And it's just like, it just reminds me of like, just you're overthinking it. It's just like, the tortured genius who overthinks it. And it's just like, there's all these different formations and plays running around in his head. And it's like, oh, it's just sometimes, my mom would always tell me the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line.
It's a straight line.
It's like just boom, just keep it going. And They stopped it and they kind of got away from themselves. And it's just like, Brock Purdy, talk about Brock Purdy. People out in Cali are talking about him. It's like Brock Purdy played a fantastic game.
Yep.
And I don't understand. It's just he's not, Mahomes. He's a different guy. And I think Brock Purdy can be the guy for them. And they did not lose that game because of anything Brock Purdy did.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy was super solid, and he was him. And it's like, please, can we stop with the negative connotation with game manager? It's like it's of your you play to win the games, like Hermet was famously said. So like if I am managing the game where we are on the winning side more times than not, then it's like, good job, you know.
Right.
So I think all the Niner gang who are all on Brock Purdy, you guys need to pump the brakes. I just feel like, you know, like you said, first Super Bowl, there was some nerves, but then after things got going, he seemed to be more in control of his emotions than Patrick Mahomes was early.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we have that, and you know, I mean, it was a fantastic game. Two fantastic teams is just I think sometimes it doesn't happen this way, but I think truly the two best teams ended up playing in the Super Bowl. Just from my, you know, opinion, you know, if you think the Ravens were better and you thought, you know, other teams were better, I thought the two best teams in the Super Bowl played, which for me, I really didn't feel that way. And it's just funny that you talk about how Mahomes is such a wizard and stuff like that. And once again, Mahomes relying on his feet to get out of trouble. You know, it's funny how it's like when one of the biggest plays in the game, it was Mahomes' feet, not his arm. You know, that they got the Chiefs out of that jam. So it's just like, it was a fantastic game. I look forward to the offseason, stuff like that. You know, I mean, this football stuff is just amazing, isn't it, fellas? You know, it is just. I just want to put that out there, say that this football stuff is just fantastic. It's just, I love it. It is just deep down in my soul and core, and I get sad when a season ends, and it just seems so long until August. You know, but you know, that's why I love baseball. You know, it's like baseball fills that void. You know, until, you know, boys put the pads back on. So, like, yeah, it's like I said, congrats to the Chiefs. Congrats to the 49ers, too, who had a hell of a season. And, yeah, it's just fantastic. And we dropped the curtain on this NBA, on this NFL season. So,
yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's going to be interesting to see, you know, how everything shakes out. I'm like you stated, you know, frustrated that the football season has come to an end. But before I give my take on the Super Bowl, Chandler has been sitting up there patiently quiet, man. And I know he has something to say. He called it 24-21. You know, he and his beautiful dog. Talk to me, man. How you feel?
I'm good, man. Yeah. Man, listen. Y'all people better listen to me when I tell you about them point spreads. I don't gamble, but I know how to tell you how to gamble now. Make you some you know, I didn't have a problem with Shanahan getting the ball first. The reason it failed is the reason that they lost, because he kept calling a bad game. I said this Sirius in the second quarter. I texted Sirius in the second quarter when they kicked the field goal instead of going for a touchdown, and I told him, I said, those 4 points are going to cost them the game.
He really did, though. He really did. Yeah.
Because you were playing not to lose. And that's what Shanahan does. He coaches not to lose in the biggest of games. You had multiple opportunities to put your foot on their neck. Multiple. They should have gone for it on that fourth. Don't kick the field goal. Go for it. This game should have been easily 20-something to zip by halftime. Easy.
Yep.
You misuse Christian McCaffrey. And miss me with the Steve Spagnuolo, this great defensive genius. They were getting gashed on the run. They were getting gashed. Okay? Christian McCaffrey, every time they gave it to him, right up the middle, 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 right up the middle. And it's Shanahan, as Shanahan is wont to do, says, you know what? Let me show you how smart I am. I'm going to call some passes here. I'm going to call a couple of screens. I'm going to stop using Christian McCaffrey. You're going to see what a genius I am.
I'm gonna have Jawan Jennings throw a throwback touchdown, you know.
And it worked. The game.
It worked.
Almost.
It did work. It did work.
They should have had a penalty on that.
Yeah, they should have.
They should have.
You had opportunities to really put your foot on their neck. Andy Reid had morphed into Andy Reid from Philly.
Yep.
Okay. You open the second half with that stupid toss play. All right. You keep Isaiah Pacheco running him inside when the 49ers are vulnerable to the outside, but you keep running Pacheco inside, and Pacheco ain't getting a whole lot of yards because you keep running into scripted defense. Even after, and I think it was Greenlaw, right, dude? I hope he comes back, man.
That
was
because he was playing well before that.
Big loss.
He was.
He was playing well.
You know, Chase Young showed up for the first time all season.
Yes.
We saw Chase Young from Ohio State.
He earned a paycheck, Chandler.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost money time for Chase Young.
He's
so-
almost he wants that money.
Yeah, mhm.
It is money
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
Listen, Chase Young was playing so well, they doubled him and singled up Bosa, and suddenly we saw Bosa again. You have no excuses for losing this game, except how you call it offensively. I'm not a Brock Purdy guy. Okay, I think he's okay, but here's the thing: Matt Ryan played well enough to win the game. Jimmy Garoppolo played well enough to win the Super Bowl. Okay, Brock Purdy played well enough to win the Super Bowl. What's the common denominator?
Shanahan.
Shanahan. If you're going to take the ball first, you cannot settle for a field goal. You got to take at least 2 shots at the end zone. Actually, 3. Okay, you got to take at least 3 shots at the end zone. They didn't do that. You settled. They kept settling. And I'm sitting there like, dude, this is your game. The Chiefs, Andy Reid was calling. I don't know what the hell was going on. You guys are right. Patrick Mahomes looked frustrated. You know, you got Travis Kelce tackling his coach on the sideline. He getting mad, and I don't blame him, because why do you keep taking him out the game, Andy? Why do you keep taking him off the field, Andy? What are you doing, Andy? I felt like I was watching the Philadelphia Eagles with Donovan McNabb and Brian Westbrook. What are you doing, Andy? Why are you taking him off the field, Andy? What's going on, Andy? Kyle Shanahan, and he's not getting near enough blame. As I said, he's Teflon. It's everybody else's fault. It's Brock Purdy's fault. You know, it's this injury fault. It's the guy who got hit on the heel by the punt fault. It's the kicker's fault. This loss is on Kyle Shanahan. It's on Kyle Shanahan. His team, he coaches well enough to get you to the door of the club, but you ain't getting in the VIP, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You getting turned back because you got the wrong colors on, or you ain't dressed right. You ain't getting in.
Tell him, Mike. Talk to him.
Talk to him, Mike. Talk to him, Mike. This game kind of unfolded. We never did get your prediction, but tell me how this game unfolded as you kind of saw it from your eyes there.
Well, you guys hit on it on pretty much everything, but I got one question before I kind of double click on a couple of things that were said. How many catches did Brandon Ayuk have in this game?
None enough.
Brandon Ayuk had 3.
Not
For
enough.
how many yards?
3 catches for 49 yards.
So one of your most explosive guys, downfield guys, doesn't get really involved. First of all, you wouldn't have needed him to if you had stuck to the script. So you come out, you lose Greenlaw, which big injury. You hate to see him go down because he was making a difference on that line. That defense said, after they got gashed by Detroit, tested by Green Bay, they said, we're going to show up this week and play better.
Yep.
And the first half of this game, they did.
Dominated.
If I had told you going into this game that Patrick Mahomes was going to be the leading rusher for Kansas City in this game, you would have thought that this team, that San Francisco had a legitimate chance to win this game, and they should have. There's a few things that point out to me. Did Brock Purdy run for his life? Yes, but the entire first half, it was so obvious that Jim Nantz and Tony Romo pointed it out multiple times. The entire first half, San Francisco kicked their ass on the line of scrimmage. Period.
Oh yeah.
So why come out in the second half and get cute and start playing Mahomes' game? Why come out and start trying to throw the ball a bunch of times? You had a chance to keep this at 2 possessions on a regular simply by driving the ball down the field. They couldn't stop you. You throw enough to keep them honest. But what you should have done was just throw enough to keep them honest in the run game. It should have been run, sprinkle in a pass. Run, sprinkle in a pass. That my bad. That's what should have happened there. He got cute with his play calling. And then at the end of the day, this missed kick was an extra point too. Right now, I understand they moved the extra points back and all this. I got it. But in a big game, you got to convert a point after touchdown, yo. Like you got to convert a PAT. But the other piece to it is if you run the ball more and you continue to do what got you there, what got you the lead in the first half. I mean, listen, Kansas City was this close to being shut out in the first half. And they even pointed out that no team that's ever been shut out in the first half has ever won the Super Bowl. So they were this close to completely shutting them out in the first half. And what's the other thing you guys talked about early on when we first started this conversation? That San Francisco defense looked tired late in that game and in overtime. Well, if you're throwing the ball 9 times out of 10 and you're not running the ball and eating the clock, you're not helping your defense out. And once you lose one of your mainstays on the defensive line, you need to do things to help compensate for that. And part of that is continuing to run the ball down their throat and eat away at that clock. I don't care how good Mahomes is. I don't care how many good throws he can make. I don't care what. Listen, Brock Purdy will never be Pat Mahomes. That does not mean that he can't be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. We've seen a lot of Super Bowl winning quarterbacks that are not Pat Mahomes. Even in the last few years in a quarterback-driven league. I don't have to go back to Trent Dilfer or Brad Johnson to point that out anymore. So you look at this, at the end of the day, they didn't play complimentary football when they got into the second half. They did all the things listen, at the end of the first half, sure you gave away the field goal, sure you left some points on the board, sure there are some things you could have done better to have a bigger lead going into the locker room. But at the end of the day, if you would have kept up with the same things that you were doing in the first half, you probably win the game. And even without that, if you make a damn point after touchdown, you win the game. So there are a lot of things that San Francisco did wrong in this game. And because of that, Kansas City was able to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, as the old saying goes. You can't keep giving life to somebody like that. You got somebody that great and you got them down, you have to step on their neck. And they did not do it. They didn't have that killer instinct. He was too busy trying to be cute. CeeLo said back in the day, "You ain't no killer," and Shanahan's not.
So here's my position on it, and again, everybody's coming for Shanahan's neck, rightfully so. When you have, your quarterback drop back 38 times, that's not a recipe for success, especially when he's not, he's not that guy. When you have Brandon Ayuk, with 3 receptions, Deebo Samuel with 3 receptions, and George Kittle with 2, one of which was late in that ball game, then I get it. But here's the thing, Andy Reid essentially launched himself into the names of a Bill Walsh, a Chuck Noll, a Belichick, with his management of this team and of this game. Everybody's correct. The San Francisco 49ers were beating the brakes off of Kansas City, and he would not let them let go of the rope. He has some help. This is the football is a funny shaped object. It has to sometimes bounce your way. It happened. But at the end of the day, it was a 1-score game. And even without, let's say for kicks and giggles, Kansas City does not get that field goal late in that ball game. You're only down 10 due to your defense, like Steve pointed out to you. And he wouldn't let them let go of the rope. You know, again, it helps. You got Mahomes. He's come back from 10 down. As long as you got, 15 and 8-7, you got a shot. I mean, I understand all the sayings, but Andy Reid would not let his team let go of that rope. And I'm gonna respectfully disagree with, Chandler coming at Spags and saying he didn't call a good game, because at the end of the day, his team was down 10. And he made some critical calls in the fourth quarter and in overtime to give his team a chance. All you need to do is give your team a chance. If the 49ers make that third down, that 3rd and 3, where they miraculously forgot to block Chris Jones, whatever. There was a blitz on the other side from McDuffie. Mm-hmm. There was a blitz there. That was a Spags call. So again, I'm not saying he's the greatest defensive mind. I'm not even going there, but between Spags and Andy Reid, they figured out a way to not let this team let go of the rope. Travis Kelce had 1 catch for 1 yard in the first half. Mm-hmm. 1 catch for 1 yard. He finished with 9 for 93. They figured it out. You got a guy like Mecole Hardman who started the year on the New York Football Jets, catching bombs between 2 defenders, and obviously the game winner. They would not let go of the rope, and so I mean, Villain kind of teased it, but are we able to start putting Patrick Mahomes in this Tom Brady type of stratosphere? What and if not, what the hell is it going to take for us to what does Patrick Mahomes need to do before we start launching him into that category? This is his 4th championship now?
Third.
This is his 3rd championship now.
4th Super Bowl.
4th Super Bowl, 3rd championship. Back-to-back championship. Doing it with the worst team that he's had in this Kansas City Chiefs dynasty era.
Yeah.
Like, talk to me, Villain. I mean, you want to tease it? Talk to me, man. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, you got to put respect on him, right? This is the quote-unquote worst team that he's had in his 6 years in the league, and he took him to the Super Bowl and won. Like, you got to give him credit for that. I am not ready to put him in the GOAT category. I think it's disrespectful to the guys that have done it. I think you have to. I think he's the best quarterback I've ever seen. That doesn't mean he's the GOAT right now. He doesn't have the stats. He doesn't have the numbers. He doesn't have the longevity. Chandler, you can look crazy all you want. If his career ended right now, he still wouldn't be top 10 in a lot of categories. Like I what he's done, but like he's really, to me, still neck and neck with Peyton Manning. Do we forget Peyton Manning has 5 MVPs? Do we forget that? Chandler, talk to me, Chandler. We could go back and forth. Like Peyton Manning has 5 MVPs.
You're nuts.
How many? How Patrick Mahomes has played 6 full
I don't care.
7 years in the league.
I don't care, man. Me don't care. Me don't care about your MVP and your statistics.
It makes a difference. To, like, let's let his career finish out. Let's let his career finish out.
He wins.
Here's the thing.
So did Joe Montana. Joe Montana has more Super Bowls.
But you
Terry Bradshaw has more Super Bowls. Like, what are we talking about?
He's the greatest of his generation. See, this GOAT thing, you young people got this thing twisted. Okay, there is no one GOAT. Okay, as the old guy in the room, there is no one GOAT. Okay, because I've watched football in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, babbity. Okay.
Okay, boomer.
All right.
That's
there is a GOAT for each generation because the game is different. You're talking each iteration of the game.
Absolutely. I can respect that.
For his generation, Mahomes is already the greatest of his generation. I don't care. Listen, Gale Sayers didn't have a whole lot of stats. He only played 7 years.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to tell me he's not one of the greatest running backs in the history of sports? Okay, he didn't have the stats. So it's Patrick Mahomes is.
So I think we're defining the GOAT differently.
Okay, but when you talk GOAT, you're talking about someone who changes the game, whose name will for always be remembered. Okay, Patrick Mahomes will always be remembered.
Even
40 years from now, they're gonna remember Patrick Mahomes. Okay, those are the GOATs for me. Okay, I don't give a damn about stats. Did you change the fabric of the game? Are you somebody that will go down? You can't talk NFL without saying certain names. Mahomes is already there, and he's only 28.
He's there because he's playing now.
No, because of what he's done. 6 straight AFC championship games. 6 straight AFC championship games. 6 straight AFC championship games. Andy Reid, 8 straight division titles. This was already a dynasty. I don't give a damn about Super Bowls at this point. Marv Levy's Bills were a dynasty. 4 straight Super Bowls. I don't care that they didn't win. Those teams will always be remembered. That is, for me, what puts you in those conversations with the greatest of all times. Those are the things that do it. Because you know what? Listen, George Seifert won a Super Bowl. Does anybody remember that?
Of course, I remember it.
Anybody with George Seifert's family pick him out of a lineup? No, they can't.
He's got
Nobody
2 Super
remembers
Bowls.
he told me.
2.
All right, and his wife. That's it. Pat Mahomes is in that conversation for his generation, and then we can go down in the annals of history in about another 10 years, and then we can start saying, yeah, but if Mahomes had played in this era, man, imagine, but he wouldn't have been allowed to do some of the things he did. So that's where again, this GOAT thing, it isn't about one. It's about that generation of football and how the game was played.
Actually, I agree with that 100%. You know, we have this GOAT conversation a lot when, you know, as it relates to basketball, you know, Jordan, LeBron, you know, Kobe, whatever, fill in the blank. And I said that back then, you know, you got to give these dudes their flowers. You know, because at the end of the day, what Patrick Mahomes is doing, and the thing is, the way they did it this particular year, being on the road versus a Bills team, being on the road versus the Baltimore Ravens team, again, playing the 49ers, a team that on paper, you know, they were better than. I mean, these are 3 straight weeks where the Patrick Mahomes led Kansas City Chiefs were dogs. Right. And he found a way to win all of them through a hook or crook or whatever you want to talk about it. You got to throw some respect on his name. And also, I'm gonna say this.
Hold on 1 second. I'm not disrespecting him. I'm not trying to not throw respect on his name. Like I did say, like he's that dude. I can't bet against him. But I want to respond to Chandler real quick. Is saying this. Yes, he's the greatest of his era right now, but I would never put him up against Tom Brady until his career is over. Tom Brady's had 3 Hall of Fame sections of his career. Like you can cut his career in 3 ways, and it's still a Hall of Fame career, each 3 parts. So it's like I have to put all that together to say that he's the greatest quarterback of all time. You know what I'm saying?
The thing is, we never did. Hold on a second. We never did that when Tom Brady was playing. Like when Tom Brady was playing, up until he, you know, a couple years ago, he was already named the GOAT. So
he wasn't my GOAT. He wasn't my GOAT until he got his 5th Super Bowl.
I mean, but he was still playing though. So if we use that logic, then you gotta, you know, again, I've sat here on this conversation several times. And had the whole Montana Brady GOAT thing, but if we're gonna use that logic, then you got to say, based off of the information and based on how Patrick Mahomes' career is, you know, trending, you know, the boy's nice. Breaking news, talk to me, guy.
Yeah, and listen, I can respect what Barry's saying. You know, I think, you know, what he's saying is, listen, while the guy's career is going on, I choose not to put him in that same category. What I have a hard time with is if he retired today, I think he's a top 5 quarterback. But that's just me. Yeah. Because the reality is this, like, we can't use his age against him, like Chandler said. You know, Gale Sayers only played 8 seasons. Do we hold that against him that he only played 8 seasons? If you look at what Patrick Mahomes has accomplished by his age 28 season, there is nobody, including Tom Brady, that has accomplished as much, if not more, than he has. But I do want to say, because you did mention Peyton Manning, and I got to say, and you know what? I've had this debate with literally 1,000 people. I don't know what everybody's affinity is with Peyton Manning. I know he's got that beautiful forehead. I know that everybody loves the Manning family. Everybody loves, all these different things. I wouldn't put Peyton Manning in my top 10 quarterbacks, because the bottom line is I think what you have to look at first and foremost when you're evaluating quarterbacks is how did they do in the playoffs. I can't give you credit when the Denver team basically had to drag your ass to the finish line. He played the only Super Bowl that he won, like really he won, was against Kyle Orton. Like let's keep it 100. He got outed in the playoffs almost every single year by Tom Brady. He never did any. He was a regular season messiah. You know what? He put up all the passing stats, like you mentioned, all the MVPs, all that. But just for reference, go research guys like Johnny Unitas, who was also a 5-time All-Pro, who was also a 5-time MVP, who was also a Super Bowl champion, Otto Graham. Like, go look at some of those guys and look at what their stats were, and then compare what the average stats for quarterbacks were during that time frame compared to how much better they were than everybody else. I do think that there is some recency bias. I do, because people forget the greats. It's unfortunate, but it's just a reality. When you no longer see them, and I think to Chandler's point, you can't take like, oh, I wonder if Megatron would have been a good receiver, in the 40s. Well, yeah, everybody was 5'5" and ran, a 5 flat. Of course he would have been a good receiver. The body has changed. The technology has changed. The medicine has changed. Everything about the game has changed. The equipment has changed. You're playing in a different game. We're playing in a different era here, boys. So we do have to grade these guys versus the other players of their generation, right? Like that's the only fair way to do it. But what I will tell you is, whether you liked them or not, how many other guys who were quarterbacks would go serve the country and then come back like Staubach and participate as the quarterback? Or God, I can't remember his name. The kid from Arizona, Pat Tillman, turned down a multi-year millions of dollar deal to go serve the country. And I only bring that up because, it is something that I'm sure Chandler will touch on at the end of the show. But there is so many guys throughout the course of history that have done so many selfless things. We always worry about the stats and everything else, but you know what? There's so much more, right? Like are these guys like good human beings? There's plenty of guys that are in the Hall of Fame that are murderers, that are rapists, that are that are just bad dudes in general, right? And then there's other dudes that maybe didn't get there quite. Maybe they were in the Hall of Very Good, but they were outstanding human beings. But I know I got a little sidetracked, but there is a lot of really good quarterbacks out there. I would encourage anyone listening or anyone on the panel, there's a hell of a lot of good quarterbacks. Fran Tarkington, Otto Graham, Johnny Unitas. Like, go check out some of these guys from the 50s and 60s and just see how dominant they were. And go check out some of their accolades, because I'll tell you, some of these are from before the NFL mergers. Their stats and their awards, like I said, Unitas was a 10-time Pro Bowler. 5-time All-Pro, 5-time MVP, league MVP. Like, I mean, that right there is already a higher accolade, if you will, than Peyton Manning. He wasn't a 5-time NFL MVP. So,
Yeah, he was. 5 times.
He won. Okay, well, I thought it was 4. My bad. But I'm just saying, go back and check these guys out, because these older gentlemen, they definitely put in work back in the day, and they deserve to be recognized.
Johnny Unitas is the blueprint for a modern pocket passing quarterback. Like nobody did it like he did, and everybody emulated him afterwards. Like, he was that guy. Like, I always say, like, of Mount Rushmore, he should be considered. He doesn't have the stats to hold up with any other guys, but everybody modeled how to play quarterback after Johnny Unitas. Like, no question.
But how was his? But what you have to look at is what was his passing yards like compared to the other people that passed in that era?
No, I know.
Because they ran the ball 70% of the time back then.
Yeah, all the stats passed it by, but Johnny Unitas, nobody threw it from the pocket you had Slinging Sammy Ball and Otto Graham. That was it. But Johnny Unitas was that guy that everybody like emulated afterwards. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he was the blueprint for his time, and now there's a different blueprint. You got to be athletic and all that stuff. So, but I mean, Peyton Manning not in the top 10. I gotta disagree, man. I mean, I know you could say the last Super Bowl. If that's his only demerit, guy threw for over 500 touchdowns. You got to give him a little bit more respect than that. Come on, we got to do better than that. 5 MVPs, we got to do better than that.
They got the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, right? Like for college. And listen, Unitas is great and a fantastic player. I take issue with Peyton not being in the top 10, Peyton Manning, but at the end of the day, I don't know that he's top 5. And I think, and I understand we got to let the career play out. And I said this last year, but man, 3 and 5 years, the only year they didn't win, he was running for his life. And here's the thing.
And Brady beat him.
And he lost to Brady, but he also, keep in mind, he lost to one of the best defensive coaches and one of the best, it's not like he was playing one-on-one against Tom Brady. New England had some very good defenses with Hall of Fame caliber guys on every level of that defense. So that makes a difference. Like, at the end of the day, you're not just sitting here at a shooting gallery or something. There are other people across from you trying to stop you. And this Patriots team played good defense. Here's what really, to me, elevates Mahomes in this stature to me. He won early with Tyreek Hill. This year, he had some very pedestrian receivers who dropped a lot of passes. The only thing he had really consistently was a star tight end. Didn't even really have a great running back. Doesn't that sound a little bit familiar? Didn't Tom Brady at times go to Super Bowls with some pedestrian receivers and a like 72-headed monster at the running back position? You had Kevin Falk sometimes catching the ball at the backfield. You had you had like Lawrence Maroney and all these different running backs that don't even like come close to being called great in this league. Now, he had some other guys too, but he did it with a pedestrian group of receivers this year and a tight end, but a defense that was better. But Mahomes is man, he's that dude. For this generation, he's that dude. 3 and 5 years, and the guy, like, he's got 3 Super Bowls in his first 6 years in the league. I don't know if he'll get 3 more or not. If he does, you really got to put him in that category. But at the end of the day, I think the odds are pretty good. Are they going to three-peat? The odds say no. But at the end of the day, I think the odds are pretty good that over the course of his career, he could get 1 or 2 more. Now, there's a possibility he doesn't get any more. But what I'll tell you is, Gale Sayers was mentioned earlier. Gale Sayers played 7 years in this league and was in the Hall of Fame. Pat's played, 6? And to me, if his career were to end tomorrow, first of all, it would be a tragedy. But if his career were to end tomorrow, Patrick Mahomes would be a Hall of Famer.
First ballot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
And I know Zach got to go real quick. Here's why Brady's the whole GOAT thing is fraudulent, by the way. Here's why it's fraudulent. Okay? He's only got 5 Super Bowl MVPs, but he went 7 times. He only got 4 with the Patriots, 1 with the Bucks. Mm-hmm. Well, if he was that great, why did he get all the Super Bowl MVPs? Okay? Patrick Mahomes, every Super Bowl he wins, he's going to be the MVP. The other thing is that defense carried Brady for the first half of his career. That defense was why they were winning Super Bowls. And what Brady wasn't Brady till the second half of his career. Okay, so miss me with all the Tom Brady, the great. Okay, Tom Brady wouldn't have even been on the field had it not been for the Jets and Mo Lewis. Okay, he wouldn't have even been on the field. Okay,
we got to be fair though, Chandler. That happened, but he made the most of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he
won 5 in New England. Didn't he? 5 in New England.
The first Super Bowl, he went up against the greatest show on turf. Right? The defense was outstanding. Right?
Yes.
Do you remember how that game ended?
Yeah.
It was a tackle at the tackle at the 1 yard line.
No.
No, that was a Rams.
Oh, you're thinking about Tennessee.
Yeah,
Yeah,
about
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
The Patriots Rams game, he drove them down the field and got the game-winning field goal.
He won
even though that defense was unbelievable, that Patriots defense was unbelievable. Tom Brady had to make the plays to win that game. Like I understand what you're saying. The first three were carried by a really good defense, but we can't. I don't want to chip away at Tom Brady.
I do.
Tom Brady's greatness. I don't want to do that.
Hate him.
But look at how many points they put up though. When they beat Carolina or the Eagles, they had to put up a couple of those games. They had to put up 30.
Yeah, I mean,
he won. He did win 5 in New England and 1 in Tampa. He got 5 in New England because he beat Philly, he beat the Rams, he beat Carolina, he beat Seattle, and he beat Atlanta.
He beat good teams, man. And I want Zach to but like Tom Brady, 600 passing touchdowns, like over
90,000 yards,
90,000 passing yards, like. That's what I mean. Like you could say the stats don't matter; they're cumulative. But I got to give Pat Mahomes time to catch those numbers. I got to give him time.
Jet fan, he's a bum.
Oh, stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
And by the way, he said that.
Lewis, then.
By the way, he said he was a bum the first half of his career. Season 2 of Brady being a starter, he threw for 3,800 yards. Was the number 6 passer in the league.
Nah.
That's it. His true colors are shining too.
Chandler's like, facts. What are you talking about?
Zach, go ahead, Zach. Zach, go ahead.
Oh man. So with this whole conversation about GOAT quarterbacks and top 10 and stuff like that, there's some names that I haven't heard in this whole time while I've been listening.
Yeah.
Dan Marino,
John Elway.
John Elway.
Yep.
You know, guys like that. You know, I mean, if we want to go back a little bit further, like, you know, not saying he's the GOAT, but I mean, a guy like, you know, Dan Fouts. These are guys like we talk about like top 10 and stuff like that. It's like, you know, the stuff that Dan Fouts did with the Air Coryell stuff back in the day. You know, it ushered in a new era of passing.
Yeah.
You know, that like guys like Marino and like the guys in the 80s kind of took off with, you know, but for me with Mahomes, it's like we have to start talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's undeniable at this point. You know, it's like you look at the numbers and it's like the counting numbers will come, you know, because, you know, you got guys like, you know, like Matt Stafford's going to end up with like 80,000 yards probably like in his career or something like that. You know, Drew Brees threw for a whole lot of yards down there in New Orleans, you know, so the counting numbers will come. So you look at the stats as of now, like if he retired now, I believe with his accolades and stuff like that, he will be one of the greatest of all time. He'll get in, you know, he'll get into the Hall of Fame. But I just, my thing with Mahomes is like, he's 28 years old. And Brady had a 10-year gap in between Super Bowl wins. Mm-hmm. Now, like, let's just imagine if Mahomes can just win one and not go, you know, one in the next 4 or 5 years, to where it's like he's ahead of the curve with Brady. And I feel like he's slightly ahead of Brady's trajectory. So it's time to start having a serious conversation about where Mahomes is all time. Now, again, when Mahomes' career is said and done, then that's when we sit down and we say, okay, all right, Mahomes, Brady, let's do this. You know, and that's what I want to do. Because, like, again, it's like when I look at Brady, I compare Brady to the Montanas, to the Bradshaws, to the guys who don't play anymore. You know, another guy who, like, I wouldn't claim him to be top 10, and at least, and this might sound strange, but it's like a guy like Troy Aikman. It's like, you know, Mahomes has passed, at least for me, he's passed both Mannings. He's passed a guy, you know, he's done that already. You know, he's passed a guy like Troy Aikman. So it's like he's getting into that next level of, like you mentioned earlier, like, you know, like people like Fran Tarkenton and Otto Graham and Y.A. Tittle, if you want to go back for, you know, these quarterbacks, you know.
LSU, by the way, Y.A. Tittle.
You know, You know, like
Small boy.
you know what I'm saying. You want like Davey O'Brien and I'm trying to think of all the like leather helmet quarterbacks I can right now, but it's like so yeah, it's like Mahomes is going to be he's going to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And I just think at this point, it's no denying the fact, and it's like, but Brady, right now for me, he is still the big dog, and then there's a difference between talented and best and things get mumbled up and jumbled up with that. It's like, for me, Mahomes is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. With the way he can throw the ball, the angles he can throw the ball at, he can get it done with his legs, the way he processes things, the way he doesn't get enough credit for what he does pre-read. When he's because Brock Purdy, if he could have and not to slam Brock Purdy, but it's like, at the line, maybe shift the coverage a little bit to where you don't have Chris Jones in your lap within 1 second after the ball is snapped. That's something maybe, something you can do, but it's like, I feel like that's something that Mahomes does all this stuff after the snap, and he's a wizard and he backwards passes some of that, but I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does pre-snap, and getting, things lined up and getting things in the right way. But, yeah, just like when in basketball, you have people who go by pure numbers, then Bill Russell's the GOAT. You have people who go by most talented, then you'd say LeBron is the GOAT. You go by people who say just the best competitor, the best athlete, then like Jordan's the GOAT or whatever. Like, so people have different definitions of the GOAT. Yeah. And for me, with Brady, like for me, it was the comeback against the Falcons. Because I was like, what? I was like, for me and people of my age, Joe Montana was my guy. I was like, I don't think I will ever see a better quarterback who had grace under pressure and just would go out there and just keep his cool and you just almost knew they were going to win like Joe Montana. And Tom
they
Brady
called him Joe Cool for a reason.
Yeah. He's talking about, hey guys, like John Candy's in the stand and stuff like that. It's like that Joe Cool. He was that guy. And for me, with the comeback against the Falcons, that's when I was like, Thomas Edward Brady is now the GOAT quarterback of all time for me. Yeah. And until Mahomes is finished and we got these other guys in this generation, it's like, and I think another thing with Mahomes, and this is my last point of Mahomes, and I hate to make all these basketball analogies, but it's like, Jordan, and people have heard it, Jordan kept guys from winning. Yeah. Mahomes is keeping Josh Allen from winning. He's keeping Lamar Jackson from winning. The two-time MVP Lamar Jackson. He's keeping Joe Burrow from winning.
Yeah.
Well, Joe Burrow is keeping Joe Burrow.
And at the end of the day, at the end of the day, my question is, how many quarterbacks can say that in their first 6 seasons, half of them have ended up raising that Lombardi trophy?
Well, Dan Pastorini better than all of them.
Say that again, Chandler.
Dan Pastorini better than all of them.
Ron Jaworski.
Big up to Dan Pastorini, baby. Yeah.
But you know what? It was funny though. Like I agree with you, Zach, because like I fought it for so long on Tom Brady. Because I went to school in New Hampshire around all kinds of Patriot fans. Like I was almost a Jets fan because I hated the Patriots fans so much, right? That's just the hate I was getting up there. And they would always yell at me, especially when I was doing shows with you guys. And Tom Brady's the GOAT. He's the greatest. And I was like, no, Joe Montana, 4-0. You can't debate it. He lost twice to Eli Manning. You can't have him as your GOAT. But that Falcons game, I had to stand down. I was like, I can't do it anymore. I have no argument. and like what I appreciate about Patrick Mahomes is the fact that he sat out his first year and he admitted he could not read defenses. He didn't understand it. He couldn't do it. And to go to admit it coming out of Texas Tech, you had the arm strength, you had the arm talent, but sat back and learned and mastered his craft to where he is now what people are saying on TV, he's a savant. Like he literally can do anything he wants on the field. And it's amazing to watch. Like I will concede he is the greatest talent I've ever seen at the quarterback position. No question about it. But I look at it like, why do guys like to Zach's words, why do guys like Terry Bradshaw not get enough credit, right? Like this guy won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. Why does he not get enough credit? You know what I mean?
Curtain, baby.
Because of how he left Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So two quick points on that. Number one, any basketball analogy when you're talking about the greatest ever that doesn't end with Michael Jordan, fraudulent.
Yeah.
I don't hear no LeBron James, and I'm a Lakers
Unless
fan.
it's Kareem. You could argue Kareem.
Jordan
Or Will.
Jordan.
Number 2, I'll give you guys another name, and you know what? Chandler might actually agree with this since he's such a Jets homer. I actually, the greatest thrower of the football I've ever seen is actually Aaron Rodgers. Now, he may choke in the playoffs, but that dude can spin it.
Mhm.
He, you know what? That's one of those guys that if he had the Mahomes mentality, you know, if you want to call it that, or the heart, or you know, whatever that is that you can't measure, the moxie, the team around him, whatever you want to call it in Green Bay. I think Aaron Rodgers, you borderline top 10, but the same thing that I said about Peyton Manning, you could say about Aaron Rodgers. Listen, multiple time MVP and winner, all the regular season stats, and then you look at their playoff record, you know, Peyton Manning 14-13. You know, Aaron Rodgers, I think he has a negative. I think it's something like 8-12. Like
he keeps playing the Niners, man. He can't beat the Niners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can name 4 guys. I can name 5 guys who threw the ball better than Aaron Rodgers. I can name 5 guys who threw the ball better. Dan Fouts threw the ball better. Dan Marino threw the ball better. Jim Kelly threw the ball better. Oh, and a guy that nobody ever talks about because he was a clown as a human being, Jeff George.
Jeff George had a cane.
Jeff George had the best arm that I've ever seen in the NFL. But
I thought you were gonna say Steve McNair, man. I swear. I thought that was coming.
Don't name it.
He was a terrible human being. He was a terrible human being. But Jeff George could throw that damn ball in any way. Man, listen. But at the end of the day, and it was something that was just said, and I want to say, but when you talked about Pat Mahomes and him sitting out that first year, this is why so many quarterbacks are ruined.
Yes.
This is why there's so few good head coaches.
Yep.
Because
that's a fact.
These guys are coming out of college. Up until recently, they were coming out of college, and a lot of the mobile quarterbacks, they were only half-field readers.
Yep.
Okay? But you throw them in there and expect them to read the full field. Andy Reid was smart enough to see what he had. This kid's got all the talent in the world. He can't read defenses. Go sit down over there, young man. Learn how to read the defense. We'll be fine. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody, Justin Fields is a bust. No, Justin Fields was not ready to read full fields. So many of these guys are ruined because of poor coaching. There are more quarterbacks ruined with poor coaching than it is that they're busts. I mean, the only
Trey Lance
I can think of is Jeff George, Art Schlichter because he was gambling, and Jamarcus Russell because he wouldn't stop eating.
Well, but he's right. And here's the thing. We've gotten into a what can you do now for me? And yes, the college game is more advanced. The passing concepts in the passing game are much more advanced than they were. But there's this tired narrative now that says if you get drafted as a franchise guy or you get drafted in the first round, you need to play immediately because we want that return on investment. But guess what? Pat Mahomes is exhibit A as to why sometimes, even if you do spend a first round pick on a guy, if you give him some time to develop, you're going to get an even greater return in future years. Now, you ain't going to get you ain't going to get 3 Super Bowls in 6 years. Just any old quarterback. But at the end of the day, we have to be willing to, at times, if Drake May or if Jay Daniels or if Caleb Williams comes in and they show you that they're not quite ready yet, give them some time. Let them play behind a veteran or, let them be behind a veteran for a little while and give them some time to really develop. And then if you do that, you will see the full talent on display. If you have the right coaching and people to develop them.
The problem with that, though, is if you're drafting a quarterback that high in the draft, the coach's leash is so incredibly short that you have no choice but to throw that guy in there and hopefully he catches lightning in a bottle and saves your behind from being fired. Now, again, Andy Reid has the world's longest leash. The world's longest leash. Hell, Mike Tomlin has the world's longest leash to the point where they can afford the luxury of waiting it out.
Of drafting a Kenny Pickett.
Essentially, a drafting a Kenny Pickett. You know what I'm saying? We about to mess around and go trade for Justin Fields.
I knew it was coming with it.
And Mason Rudolph.
You know what I'm saying? Don't mess with me, dog.
Hey, they can draft a Mason Rudolph. They can draft a Kenny Pickett. He gonna be fine because they got Arthur Smith now.
Yes. Let's go. No, but listen, look at how they could, like Andy Reid could have screwed up Pat Mahomes. Like he could have screwed it up. Like you traded up to the 10th pick, right, to get Patrick Mahomes. There is a inherent like there's like this this like urge, like let me put him into the game because I wasted a 10th. I want to see what I got, but no. He may have played a couple plays here and there, but he did not waver. Alex Smith played. He played pretty darn well. They were a playoff team, and then he had a year to sit, and everything went off. Like it's like that. It's like that Mo Lewis to Drew Bledsoe. Like what could have happened if Andy Reid would have screwed this up? So, and I think they're seeing the fruits of the labor. And Pat Mahomes has set this organization up with his contract to be a winning Super Bowl team for a long time, like because of the team-friendly contract. Like that doesn't get talked up enough about.
You guys have touched on this, but how many times? And then I'm done with this particular subject. But like, how many times have we seen a young quarterback? And I'm going to use San Francisco's own guy that I've mentioned a couple times, Trey Lance.
Mm-hmm.
This dude threw like 350 passes in 4 years. You had COVID, lost a season there. He was basically a sophomore when you look at how much he actually played. Yeah. They bring him in the building and they're running quarterback draws with him because they're trying to figure out a way to get him the ball. I don't care who you are or how tough you are, if you're Big Ben, if you're Drew Brees, if you're running up the middle and you have 6'5", 330 pounds tackling you play after play, it's going to break your confidence and your will. Too many coaches out there for whatever it is, bruised ego or what have you. Mm-hmm. Too many coaches do not do right by players. That's 100% a given, right? Because they misevaluate, they assume that they need to be, this guy's a top 3 talent. No, he's not. Because there is a part of the game that, he may be a top 3 talent, but he's not going to be ready to go this year. And you know what? They do a disservice to the player because there's so many guys. Look at a guy like Geno Smith. Everybody thought trash heap. Now, granted, I understand he's not the same caliber, but Pro Bowl season last year with Seattle. He's 30. He's getting more mature. He's finally figuring things out. I mean, I told you guys hundreds and hundreds of times, when you have these guys that are mobile quarterbacks, especially in college, they're usually the fastest guy on the field. They're used to being able to evade pressure, to extend plays, and basically do what they want. And when they get to the NFL, that doesn't work because everybody is big and fast and probably faster than you are. And so they do have to learn to read plays. They do have to learn to stay in the pocket as opposed to evading and essentially allowing the pass rush for a free lane. And you know what? Coaches and ownership do not allow them that time. And you know what? It is sad because there are several quarterbacks that I can think of right off the top of my head that were basically ruined. Their careers were ruined by being thrown in too early or being thrown into situations where they were literally so shell-shocked after a year or two, they saw ghosts every time they hiked the ball.
You got to look at Chicago. If
New York.
They draft Caleb Williams, I'm telling you right now, they're going to ruin that kid because Eberflus is a lame duck. They are not that good a team. They're going to have a bad season. They're going to fire Eberflus. Now you got to bring in a new coach who's going to want his own offense coordinator. So that kid's going to have 2 coaches, 2 systems in 2 years while he's still trying to learn the NFL, still learn how to be a professional, still learn how to eat, still learn how to train. And by the 3rd season, they're going to be saying the same thing about him that they said about Justin Fields. And listen, I hated Mitchell Trubisky, but he really wasn't given a fair shot. Okay, I never thought he should have been drafted that damn high. But if you're going to draft him that high, then at least try to develop him. This is what they're doing now, and it's criminal because you're ruining guys' careers. You're literally destroying their careers.
Yeah. Zach Wilson
Yeah, I
will
mean,
never be the same.
He mentioned Alex Smith, dude. I mean, Alex Smith before he got with Andy Reid. Remember, he had six different offensive coordinators in 6 seasons.
He's the number one.
Imagine that. It's not even just learning the defense, right? Like you got to learn an entirely new playbook, new verbiage, new protection calls, new everything, and I'm still trying to learn the game. It's way too much. It's way too much what they put these kids on.
That's why he was captain checkdown, because all he knew through all those offensive coordinators, I can't turn the ball over. I can't turn the ball over. I can't. Alex, throw it downfield. Oh hell no. Oh hell no. You take it.
Yeah. With that being said, gentlemen, we have reached the end of this particular episode of this particular board meeting. Again, we could sit here and talk about this for hours, but I definitely got to get these guys back to their families. Black Zach, man, Steve, man, thanks for coming by, man. Give us a plug and a close out if we shut it down, my dude.
I mean, nothing really to plug besides this. You know, looking forward to be a part of this. I hope this isn't my last board meeting. But I enjoyed the first one. So I mean, it was nice to be back on air, be back talking sports, talking things. So I mean, it's like, other than that, I mean, just like I said, glad to be here. Just grateful for the opportunity to kick it with you guys once again. And just and one last thing that I want to mention is just you know, I feel like we can take this to the moon. You know, fellas, we got it. We got the knowledge, we got the talk, we got the skill, we got it. You know, and I love this. This is a good group of guys, and man, just like, you know, from humble beginnings, we can go to great things. And I just want to put that positivity out on the show for everybody. You know, just like, I have a mean look on my face, but I try to be positive most of the time, you know. So it's like, you know,
he's actually smiling. He's actually smiling right now.
You know, like I said, I love this. I love sport. I love talking about sport. I love talking about sport with knowledgeable people, because you go to the barbershops and you go to the meetings and stuff in the water cooler, and you get some pretty wacky takes. So like, I love to be able to talk with people who know this stuff, you know. So it's just, you know, it's great, and I look forward to coming back and rocking with you guys.
Thank you so much, dude, man. Again, it's such a privilege and a pleasure to see my man. We talked some ball over the years, man. It's good to have him back in the building, man. Thanks for coming by, kicking it with us. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I missed you, man.
Brian, breaking news, man. You know what to do, man. Give us a plug and a close out to shut it down, my guy.
Hey, listen, another exciting episode here on the Executive View. Like you said, we're here at the board meeting, just handling business. It's always a pleasure to talk with you boys about different current events and topics. It was good to see some oldies but goodies in the building with Black Zach Morris and Harvey, who dropped off. Definitely appreciate you boys. Appreciate all you guys do and all the effort you put in to this. And even Chandler, I saw him smile when I mentioned my team lost today. He had a little tear in his eye. It was it's always good to see Chandler smile a little bit, you know what I mean? Because it can be tough for veterans, and I'm sure he's going to tell you all about it. Love you, boys. Peace.
All right, my man. Thank you so much, Brian, man. It's a pleasure, sharing the stage with you, sir. Chandler, you know what to do, my guy. Give us a plug and a close out to shut it down, my man.
A lot of fun tonight, man. Thanks for having me on. Tom Brady's still a bum. I don't care what anybody says. He's terrible.
I can't.
Terrible. But you know, as I always bring up, 988 option 1. You're a veteran, friend of a veteran, family member of a veteran. 22 veterans commit suicide every day. You need to get that number to 0. If you're a vet and you in that place where everything sucks and you ain't got nothing to do, there's a lot of stuff to do out there. Take some suggestions, try some different things. If you want to get a stick and hit a little white ball on really expensive grass, PGA Hope has some programs for veterans where it's a 6-week course. They pay for everything. So you get to go on them nice little country clubs and be like, hey, how's it going, Zach? I'm doing good, Chad. Would you like to play around? Okay. But, as always, say yes to life, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, Chandler. Again, I always echo that sentiment as a spouse of a veteran. Tons of family members that have served this great country. Again, say yes to life, man. We don't even begin to understand what they go through. So definitely to give that number a phone call, And again, reach out if you ever feel like you need to. Villain, another one in the books, my guy. Give me a plug in the close as we shut it down, dude.
Yeah, man. Thanks to everybody, man. We're up on socials. We're running. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. They call it X now. Instagram, TikTok. So we're on YouTube. You know, this show is still live streaming. Our first live stream on YouTube. Many more to come. Special thanks to Mr. Harvey, Mr. Knight. Obviously, breaking news and Black Zach Morris for popping through. Good to see those guys. Good to see everybody. We're doing the big things, man. I love this boardroom, man. Only top shelf stuff, man. We're only talking top shelf sports. You know what I mean? It's executives in the room. So, you know, everybody's a boss. So I love it. Even though Chandler, he doesn't like Tom Brady, it's all right. He knows I was right. He knows he was wrong. I'm right. No, I'm kidding. But it really, honestly, I would like to just say I have officially rescinded my protest against this show, against you Rocket fans. I have calmed down. I'm in good moods now. I'm in good spirits. So everything is lovely. But now I will officially put the protest back in. The protest is going back in because I appreciate you, man. We do great things. I love doing the show with you, serious, man. Be blessed, man. Everybody, man. Be blessed, man. Peace.
Thank you so much, Villain, man. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be able to share this space with so many talented young men, so many talented fathers, so many talented guys that just have the opportunity just to do what they love, man. I always say this, man. It's only by the grace of God that I get a chance to do this, man. I get the opportunity to interact with people, whether that be local, whether that be across the airways, whether, you know, Chandler sends this over to his, you know, men and women overseas, so we get a chance to be a part of them. And again, I say this and I don't take this lightly. For those of you guys that may be going through, man, prayers up to you guys. But again, we're doing big things in 2024. I said this several weeks ago, and I'm gonna keep saying this, man. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know, and it's about the people in the circle that's around you. With that being said, God bless, man. I catch you guys.